And hey, this is Will with Abysmal Hymns, and today we have Jamie and Kieran from Palindrones, and they just have a new album out called Chapter Two, Slender Blade, and I reviewed it on here as well as some other places, so you guys can check that out. So the new album is awesome, and what would you say were, kind of the influences from your environment that, kind of sparked the creative juices on it?
Yeah, we are very much influenced by what's going on in the current climate that we're in. Um, Talk about politics, but we try. It's loose. It's like the ideas stem from that. We try not to be too literal about what we're talking about in our music.
Yeah, it's talking about the world that we live in, but through the prism of like a sci-fi fantasy story about unity. Um, and you know, it's not hard to figure out what that means. In terms of the way that the world's going, the division that exists in the world, at the moment, it's only getting worse. And we've kind of like taken that idea of that need for human connection and put it in the context of a first contact story.
Yeah, so we're very much inspired by those sci-fi stories that are about exploring a bigger world, not being scared of exploring a bigger world and opening ourselves to that. Um, yeah.
So that's kind of like the abstract concept behind the story of the album.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And so, music is obviously a unifying thing, and like everybody feels part of a scene. And I know, like, early as like high school, you get that sense of identity, of belonging to something bigger than yourself, which I think is important in times like these. And so, how do you see that kind of reflected in your community there with like the goth scene?
Oh, massively. I feel like there is a very thriving alternative scene in the UK. I mean, we're London based. It's not just London. As we're getting to explore more of the UK and taking our music further around, we just get received with so much love, and we're welcomed by that scene. So yeah, it's been a pleasure sort of being part of that, and it's a very inclusive scene, which is how we are as people as well. So I think, yeah, I think that's definitely drives us and keeps us going as well.
Yeah, I
And
think
Um,
so, as you're kind of spreading out and playing shows to support this album,
yeah.
what are you seeing as far as how you guys are embraced and just how, like, I guess, dark music in general? Because I don't want to pigeonhole you guys as goth, but
It's true. Yeah, that's an interesting one because yeah, we're not trad goth. We have a lot of influences. We came from punk bands. That's how we met when we were in punk bands. So we were really familiar with the punk scene. Um, and yeah, we have a variety of different types of influences, sounds, and beats. Yet we've been very much embraced by the goth scene and played on lots of different uh, bills, like from punk to uh,
there's metal bills.
yeah. um,
And I think like there's there's an energy to what we're trying to do, which I think comes from the fact that I came up in like metal bands and punk bands playing guitar and bass and drums, uh, sort of just energetic, really energetic music and kind of like performative music in like in the sense of putting on a show, and then that's the kind of thing that we've translated it across because we both started doing that. We've translated that across to the way that we approach playing electronic music, which traditionally can be a little bit insular in the way that an electronic music performer plays their live shows, because there's so much technology that you've got to keep track of. There's less room for the kind of like bombast of a rock show, and that's something that we've tried to bring into the way that we do it, so that we can cross those different lines and play on different bills, play on pop bills, play on metal bills, play on goth bills, and the feeling of the music and the energy of the show. Hopefully, the intention is that that translates whatever the scene.
Yeah, and I feel like we've always been very much welcomed in each scene. Like some of the nights were like, oh, I wonder how we'll go down, and it's always been really pleasantly surprising sometimes.
Right. And
Can't
I
Thanks,
think,
everybody.
a lot of metal bands, kind of either are into goth on their own, and like you see side projects starting to crop up.
Yeah,
Guys that are in black metal bands now are in like a post-punk band with somebody that, they toured with or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think even what Dark Tranquillity, those guys, the singer put out a goth album like last year. Um, so I think that the similar current is like the heaviness is just kind of translated differently. With
Mm.
metal, it's more overt, where with just dark music in general, like I think Swans are heavier than like most death metal bands, because it's an emotional heaviness rather than just
yeah,
a rock type heaviness.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and more, maybe it's more mature, I guess, because as I see like a lot of guys that I know that are in metal bands that now play in kind of post-punky bands, they just the energy of doing that got taxing for after a while, and now they're doing what they do. Are you seeing kind of how that connects, like the emotional current that connects with audiences?
Definitely. I think that's something we get the feedback wise a lot is about how people can really lose themselves in our music. I mean, there's the side of just enjoying it and dancing, but there's the side of just immersing yourself and getting lost in, I guess, how ethereal some of our sounds are. Um, yeah.
I think for me, that's the most important part of the music, is translating an emotion into a sound, and emotions are the most universal thing, and so they do translate to anybody, whatever scene or kind of genre of music they might class themselves as being a fan of. That emotional, you can get that emotional kind of weight, across. You can listen to a Cure song and feel a certain thing, and then you can listen to, you know, Johan Johansson as an example, like, classical composer, and you get that same like that same feeling, and that's my approach to music.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, it's kind of the connection part is a double-edged sword, because I think music is now more important because as people are disconnected because they're living their life on devices all the time, we're in our own little bubbles. I mean, I have a daughter who's turned 15, and I'm scared of what the world's going to look like for her in another 15 years. What is that going to be like, that movie Wall-E where everybody's in the chairs and they're just talking on
Yeah,
screens, you know?
Oh,
Um,
definitely.
so I think that's important. But at the same time, now with all this technology, you don't have to be on a big label. You can,
Yeah.
reach people as well. So it can be a tool that goes in either direction. So how have you guys seen like the social media interaction as a tool for you guys?
Yeah, it's so it's a bit of a necessary evil that we have to put all of that work in doing that side of it. Um, but at the same time, we've definitely embraced that. Um, I think between us, we kind of have a broad set of all the skills needed to 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 hit all of that, because I'm a graphic designer and I also do some video production. So everything we do is DIY. All our music videos are DIY, and we can like convert everything to little promo clips. So it's whilst it can be a bit of a slog, it's also quite exciting knowing how far we can reach, and seeing also the people all around the world listening to us is really exciting.
Yeah, and it's just, it's a learning curve. Um, when I were a kid, you never had to, make 30-second videos all the time.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's just it's like as technology evolves, like the world evolves, and you have to evolve with it. And so it's just part of the, I like, I used to make physical posters that we make less of now. So it's like the new version of doing that.
Yeah, yeah.
We used to promote in different ways, and now we don't really promote in the ways that we used to, and now we have to promote in the new ways. And yeah, like maybe it's the kind of thing that if we had a label, the label would be doing, but then the label would be the ones controlling the output of that. So I think it's like, because we've got such a kind of defined vision of how we want to portray ourselves in the music and the image, that I think that's the magic of the way that technology affects the way that we can do it, because it means that we've got so much control over that.
Yeah.
And it might not be, we might not be reaching, hundreds of thousands of people, but we're reaching, thousands of people that we're going to connect, like be able to connect with, in a more profound way, if you know what I
And
mean.
it does work because, yeah,
Yeah.
new people, we get messages from people that just discovered us online, message us online, or they'll just show up at a gig saying we saw your advert and we love what you're doing, so it works.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. Well, I don't know if you guys, this is kind of a similar thing, but I don't know if you've heard the new Peter Murphy album, but it totally goes back, for a while he was doing kind of like almost a Dead Can Dancy thing, but now it almost sounds like something from like the early 90s to where there's like a super like almost 80s dance
Oh,
feel to
really?
it. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I think that like dance is so ingrained in goth culture. Like, it's more of a dancing thing where it's like moshing and stage diving is like punk and metal. Um, so how are you seeing like things like goth nights and like interacting with DJs as being an important role in getting your music out there?
I think that we're like we're less experienced with the kind of club side of things, um, rather than the grassroots, um, live side of it. But we
Yeah.
do. Having said that, that we do kind of see what's happening, in terms of, we went to we're old, I can't stay up until 6 o'clock in the morning every day like any more clubbing. But we did go, there was a club in London called Kit Kat Club that we went to,
Yeah.
and that was a really wide range of like all the different, like, it's like the different versions of what you would consider goth.
Yeah.
And I think that, and then there's Slime Light in London, which again we don't get to go to as much as we'd like.
Yeah. We
And
go when we can.
yeah, yeah. And it's just such a, you go to these clubs and there's so many different rooms. Yeah, it's like there's the kind of trad room,
Mm.
and then there's the more kind of, like trance or techno version of it. And it's just like it keeps it like fresh, because I'm a fan of all the different versions of it, and I can kind of experience it all on one night, and,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then be brutalized the next day.
But yeah, it's always exciting when we've heard that DJs have played us. And yeah, yeah. So yeah, a few different sort of DJs in different scenes, from industrial to that even yeah, I've got a friend who DJs at Torture Garden, has played us a few times. Um,
Yeah, and the idea of that, it's one thing playing the music, but it's like that's kind of a different, like an audience has a different relationship with a band performing than they do with, um than just dancing
yeah.
to the music.
Oh,
And
we've
so
had
the idea of that is really interesting. I It's like, I've never been in a room where it's happened, like, where we've been played, but I know that we have been played, and it's quite a surreal thought, I don't know how I would react to being in that room and seeing people dancing, because that's just it's more like people just in their own world dancing to a piece of music rather than watching a band perform. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, we
Right,
have
right,
had
right.
people that have been to clubs where our music's come on and
Yeah,
they've
yeah.
filmed it and sent us it, which is nice.
Yeah, yeah. So I've seen it. I've just not been in the room, and it's like, wow, that's like,
Yeah.
it's, it is. That's a surreal. It's a surreal feeling to imagine, because just when you see a dance floor of just of lots of people dancing and that kind of euphoric, like insular euphoric thing. It's the idea of, people are dancing like nobody's watching, and they're not
Mm.
like, they're just focused on dancing. And it's like, yeah, that's a really surreal feeling. I keep repeating myself, but yeah.
No, no, no. I mean, it makes sense. Plus, I like what you said about, you guys have been focused on the interaction of the audience. And I mean, I'm older, but I think that for me, that's what I grew up with was going to shows and having more of an interaction with the artist, where it seems like with like the whole dance scene, that it's the interaction of the audience with each other. It's
Yeah,
a different energy
Yeah.
exchange,
Yeah.
I'd almost feel like, if I was to witness, if I was to be in the room and witness our music be played in a nightclub, like, it'd feel like I shouldn't be there. Do you know what I mean?
Almost feel
Like,
like you're being colded by your music.
well, it's
You
like,
have to sit in that chair
yeah,
and
like
watch
I'd
me
be like
spin
seeing
this.
something that I'm not supposed to see. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's because in that scenario it stops being about us. Do you know what I mean?
But the DJ's the the star rather than
Well,
us.
it's not even necessarily that. I mean, yeah, of course, the DJ, like the
But at the end of
DJ,
the day,
but
it's
the
your
music,
music. So your music's still connecting. It's just on a different level.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
At that
It's
point, it's
like I
like having
should
a
just,
kid. You just let it go out in the world. And then at
yeah,
that
yeah,
point, it is
yeah.
Yeah.
what it
I should
is.
just leave them to it.
Right.
I think it's similar with the people that contact us saying they want to remix our stuff. And that's always
Yeah,
really interesting because I just love the variety and the variations and what they're going to come up with and turn our sounds into something completely different. It's always exciting to hear that.
yeah, no, yeah, I love that. I love it when people remix our music, and I never want to give them any kind of guidance. Like, I just want to know what they
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
Right, right.
and hear what they take from it and turn it
Mm.
into. And it's like a few years ago we did a, after our first EP that came out in 2021, we took a song from that, and then I had, like, I think 9 different musicians just do their own interpretation of that one song, and then we released that as an album of just
They
9
were
different
so
versions.
varied,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
varied, really
yeah.
cool.
Just
Which
like,
is cool because that shows that the soul of the idea has like legs and that you could grow. Like I'm big on
Yeah,
like anytime I've played in a metal band, I've always wanted to like write all the songs with an acoustic because then you're not reliant on the distortion.
mm,
Then if
mm,
it's going to be a good song, it's going to be a good song no matter what context you put it in,
yeah,
yeah.
because
yeah,
the
yeah.
solid skeleton's going to be there.
That's an interesting approach. Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, how is, dark music in the UK now? How is that being embraced in 2025? Do you think it's on the rise? Are you seeing more of it on, social media?
Definitely on the
Yeah.
rise, definitely. There's more and more festivals happening. There's a lot of great promoters in the scene. Um, and it's up and down the country. Um, and there's pockets of people really wanting the alternative and goth type events.
And it's like about the fact that it doesn't necessarily seem to be about, like, money or success. It's about people that have got a deep kind of affection for the music, um, and that's why it's happening, and that's why it seems to be like a successful thing, and things are springing up, like, in little big towns and little towns, like all over the country.
But the big thing I see is the acceptance of um, all sorts of people. I think that's what it's about. The scene is about being inclusive. I think for me, that's why it's growing.
Yeah,
Because I feel like mainstream society is increasingly alienating a lot of people and not accepting differences. So that's why I think the alternative scene is really on the rise, and it's great. It's great that we have like safe spaces for everyone to be themselves.
yeah. It's like what is considered like dark music is just not all of it's even necessarily that dark. You know, we're kind of part of the dark music scene, but our music doesn't really sound necessarily that dark. But it's kind of a it's about self-expression,
Yeah.
and it's like right down from the the creation of the music down to the people that present themselves. Uh, find like that inner like crystallization down of their inner self and then presenting it to the world. And I think that because the sort of dark music scene is so why it's thriving because it encourages self-expression,
Yeah.
whatever that self-expression looks like.
Yeah. Definitely.
Right, and it's certainly more introspective and kind of like a celebration of your shadow self. I think that that's something that everybody needs, kind of like the self-acceptance part of it is just as important as the acceptance on a bigger scale, you
Yeah,
know. And so I think that that's why what you guys were talking about, the inclusiveness kind of works, because if you think back, 70s, 80s when all this was coming about, it was, I mean, obviously England's the birthplace of it. I mean, America, we have what? Christian death and, we have death rock, but you guys, and industrial, I guess, in Chicago, but you guys did the rest.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, so I can kind of see that for sure. And, there's always been an androgynous element to the music. And I think that where metal is more of a masculine current, dark music kind of falls somewhere in the middle,
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. Yeah.
which I think gives, more like elegance to its atmosphere.
Mm.
That's why it has a different, for me, has a different emotional current than like metal,
Hmm.
you know.
yeah, yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think because I think you came from metal, I more came from punk, and I think it's a similar thing actually. That I think there's quite a masculine element to punk, although that's definitely evolving a lot more. Which we're still got lots of friends in the punk scene, so yeah, I can see that. Um, yeah.
Right, for sure. I mean, there was people like Wendy O. Williams and, Susie. I mean, because originally, like Susie and the Banshees, that was a punk, they were punk, you
Yes,
know.
Yeah,
Same
definitely.
thing with The
Yeah.
Cure was originally a punk band.
yeah.
Well, that's the thing. What is goth? What is goth music?
Right. I always like what Roz Williams said. He said, death rock is just punk dressed up for Halloween. And I can see that. Because I think that, um, Halloween obviously to me is like a celebration of that darker shadow self that we tend to hide. So I think that, what dark music does is it gives us a place to kind of embrace that. And is
Yeah.
Yeah.
that something that you kind of see as you're like writing songs? Do you see that as like this is kind of my sacred space to embrace those things that I don't parade around in normal life?
Um, I don't know. I think it's just part of what we're. It's a big side of both of us. I mean, we love horror films. Um, I think we're not scared of the darkness that I mean, 'cause that's what a lot of our music is about the two sides of nature, the dark and the light, and the negative and the positive. So it's like I guess um I don't know, is that about the depth of
It's just like for me, it's the fusion of opposites.
yeah.
Like, I think the process of making, not necessarily, um, it's that same, it's the same point I was making earlier about the crystallization of of, of the self and then giving it to the world. For me, um, it is about the fusion of the shadow self in a way. Yeah, that's correct. And but it's more than that. It's just literally crystallizing my entire being and what I want to say, and then throwing it out. So that's what the creative process is. So it's like it's just, yeah. Some of the music's dark, some of the music's happy, some of the music's like a bit in the middle, like like that kind of like Cure. I keep mentioning the Cure, that kind of happy sad. That's almost like it's the through line of a lot of the music that we write. It's the happy sad, the kind of euphoric sadness, um, or like glorious.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys reached a really great balance of it because I mean, I can like sometimes when I'm reviewing music, I'll be like, well, this is a little too happy for me. But people that are, not on antidepressants might like this. But with you guys, I didn't have that. There wasn't a curve in that grade, so it connected to me. I guess the happiest I go is like churches.
Yeah.
Um, but even there, I can see, and maybe it's just the world that she's living in as it gets darker. Like I think their last album was a lot darker, and
Yes.
they had horror themes on that album. So I think it's finding a balance. I mean, sure, you have to find some enjoyment out of wherever you're at in life, and I think that's what you guys are doing, are kind of helping bring that to a larger audience. And so how have the shows been going that you guys have been doing to promote this album?
Yeah, really good. Yeah, as I said before, we've been playing up and down the country because obviously we're London based, and so we played London a lot. So I think our goal for the I guess last year and this year is just to
Yeah,
explore more of England and get our music further out. And yeah, we played quite a variety of different gigs. I think also for us, it's like that's part of the fun is just the experiences that we have and the people that we meet.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, we've got a lot coming up from festivals, with some fun support slots. Um,
Yeah, it's all about kind of like the we'll play anywhere, we'll play anytime. Like, well, if there's a kind of a if there's a hunger for the music,
yeah,
we'll play there. We've got no airs and graces. Um,
yeah, and we love like the little small intimate gigs where people are right in front of you. And but we've been lucky to play on some really big stages as well. So I think I feel really fortunate for the opportunities that we've had that have come our way.
yeah, I feel privileged
Yeah,
to be part of the scene that we are part of, and we've met some really wonderful people from the bands that we've played with, to the
definitely.
promoters, and the the audiences that we've been lucky enough to play in front of, and just met some really nice people.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah,
for me, I've been really humbled by some of the feedback about our music is how our music's touched people and how our music's even helped people through difficult times. So getting feedback like that is like yeah is um I'm always a bit surprised, but yeah, it's lovely to hear.
yeah, it is, because that's like for the ultimate point of palindromes, and the way that it translates into that concept of dark music is, for me, it's about finding peace in that darkness, essentially. So to hear, when we hear that like our music has affected people in that way, it's like that. I'm so grateful to hear that, and so happy that that has been able to do that for people, because that is, for me, it's a way for me to find peace in the darkness, and it's kind of what I want to give that.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
and that's more important to me is that we're touching some people rather than just having massive success.
yeah,
That's not what we're doing it for. It's if we can touch people and help people, then that's everything.
For sure. And that's kind of like, I guess almost the point behind like the 12-step programs. You have other people that are suffering similar things are helping each other. And to me, I think that music does that on a maybe broader level even than that. And I think that it's no coincidence because, a lot of ritual and religions use music as part of their ceremony. So there's obviously some powerful element. I always say that it's the vibrational frequencies. I mean, everything is made out of vibrations. So
Hmm.
that's at the core of everything. So that's
Yeah.
really when songs touch you, they're touching, your core. So you guys are doing magic, whether you know it or not. Maybe it's intentional. I don't know. It's
We're trying.
so what are the plans now? Is your main goal for this year to play shows to promote the album?
Yeah. We've got like over the next couple of months, we've got a number of shows that we're going to be getting out around the country and playing. Which we're really looking forward to it. Summer, like summer festival time. We've got quite a few festivals coming up that we're looking forward to. We've got Alice's Wicked Tea Party, which is in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Um, that's the next show that we've got
That's
coming up.
grassroots, like a mixture of punk and electronic, set on a farm in two barns, which was really fun. Um, uh,
Mm.
yeah, we've been supporting a goth covers band called Sanctum Sanctorium, which was really fun. And yeah, they play the music so well. So they have, and these shows are really popular. So we're reaching this big audience of people, and we were really well received. So we've got a couple more shows with them.
I have to look at my calendar. We've got quite a few shows coming up, but that is
Well,
We
what we'll
don't
do is we'll
massive.
post your tour dates,
Yeah,
down
but that
below.
is the focus, and we've already kind of started writing some new material as
yeah.
well.
We don't massively plan things. We kind of just wing it and
Yeah,
just do what we do as much. We're both a bit yeah, we never stop. We're not people that sit still, and we're constantly writing new music.
I think we're going to release Abraxas as a single next. Abraxas is
Yeah,
I think it's the third track on the album. That's going to be the next single, but then it might end up not being the next single because we get a video idea for a different song, and then that, like, oftentimes that's what happens. We have a plan, and then that plan gets thrown out because we have another idea.
yeah.
So right now the plan is for Abraxas to be the next
Yeah, so
single.
we have been planning the video for that, and yeah, potentially filming that in Chislehurst Caves. So yeah, that'll be
Awesome.
really
That'll be
fun.
cool. Well, great. Well, we're about on time, but I am going to post all you guys links down below. You guys check out Palindromes, and thank you so much for your